Hi, everybody. How is everybody doing today? I have been posting a lot of videos. We've done work of some, like just educational stuff and some special educational stuff, and we've done like some stories. I've tried to go into some, virtual visits of the zoo also. So I wanted to bring another topic today, which was something I think this is something that all of us can use with our population that we work with the kids that are at home, with the clients that are at home, and they are not able to come out because of the recent epidemic that is going around. And just in general, we can use these tips in our daily lives, and I just think that they will really, really help us. And the topic that I have today is called as functional communication training. So, in order to show you a little bit about functional communication training, the first thing that I have for you over here is function over form. So, what does this mean? This means function over form, functional communication training. That means that when we're doing a functional communication training, it we look at the function of the behavior rather than the form of the behavior. And when we have that into consideration, then we can train according to the function of the behavior. So it's function over than the form of the behavior. And what is functional communication training? Now let's talk about that a little bit. Functional communication training is one of those ABA teaching methodologies that everyone should know about, whether you're a parent or you're a professional. Parents and teachers sometimes naturally implement functional communication training without realizing they are using an ABA strategy. It's really true with many things teachers or parents of children with autism spectrum disorder or any other developmental disability or intellectual disability do. Any child who is not verbal, any child who is verbal but is unable to communicate their needs and wants. And in order for us to give them that voice so that they are able to communicate to get what they want is called as a functional communication training that we do as a professional or we do as a parent, so that the children do not have the behaviors, but they are able to communicate with us in a better way. And that is called as functional communication training, which means function over form. Now, FCT is used to teach and establish replacement behaviors for inappropriate or harmful behaviors such as aggression, escape, elopement, non-compliance, etc. When a child is regularly engaging in FCT is used to teach any kind of replacement behaviors. And when a child is regularly engaging in disruptive, challenging behaviors, that is always a form of communication, right? So, for example, if it is you and me and, we want something, um, suppose if we have a headache at work and we're unable to communicate to our boss that we have a headache, or for example, it's the end of the day and, we are done with all of our daily chores for the house, and now it is time for us to rest because our body is hurting, we are tired, we have worked all day long, and all of a sudden we're not able to communicate this to our other partner or to our family members that, hey, you know what, I'm really tired, I need to rest, I really need my rest. And all of a sudden, if somebody comes and puts a demand on us, and what do? We just lash out and we're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, right? So what are we having? We're having a behavior in that moment, right? Now that behavior that we are having in that moment is a reaction because we are trying to communicate our frustration through that tantrum. In the same manner that our kids are unable to express what they want in the form of aggression and non-compliant behaviors. So any behavior is the communication of what they want and need. So any nonverbal kiddo, they usually are most aggressive when they want something, and that is when they are exhibiting behaviors that they have learned, which is like kicking, hitting, pinching, or things like that. So they are going to get people to do what they want them to do by doing all of these maladaptive behaviors, right? So the way functional communication training works is it is a strategy used within a comprehensive ABA program. The target behavior is selected and defined, and then through careful observation and data collection, a communication deficit is discovered. Then a hypothesis is created in order to select more socially acceptable and appropriate ways of communicating. It's really, really technical, but in a real life example, it could be that, for example, there is a child, and he wants to, for example, there's a certain time of the day that he's getting really, really hungry, and he just doesn't know how to communicate with you what he needs or what he wants at that time. Now, because he's getting really crabby at that time, and what he starts doing is he starts to kick you and hit you at that time, and you're unable to find out the reason. So what do? You conduct a functional behavioral assessment, which is something that us as behavior analysts do. Come to find out that the function of his behavior is access to tangible item, which is food. And then at that time, you do your interference, and when you interfere, you make the child. So in that scenario, when the child is having all of those behaviors, you actually come to the conclusion that, okay, this is the reason that the child is having this behavior. And at that time, you give the child something to voice his wants and needs. And once the child is able to ask for that item, we give that item rather than the child having that maladaptive behavior. When implementing a functional communication training, it is important to decide on a communication system that works for the child and that caregivers will accept. This could include vocal language, it could include PECS, it could include sign language or a speech generating device. It just depends on the child. Once a communication method has been determined, it is very important to no longer reinforce the problem behaviors. To do so would only undermine the effectiveness of FCT. So basically, it is very important not to reinforce the problematic behavior, because at that time, what has happened is that we are already giving them a voice, right? And that voice is something that they are supposed to use in order to get what they want. Reinforcement and prompting are the key in teaching the new behavior as well as keeping the child successful. The problem behavior must be put on extinction so that the child learns that only communication gets needs and wants met. Depending on the child, this can be done with an antecedent intervention, which means that you are going to make the environment in such a way that there is an antecedent intervention, so something before the behavior happens, so that the actual maladaptive behavior doesn't happen, and you are prompting the child to ask for the item that they are crying for rather than having the maladaptive behavior. How do you make the child ask for stuff? You make the child ask for stuff by using either vocal, sign language, more please, or you have like a PEC system going around, you have like a speech generating device. Some of the things that I have for you are these right here. So this is like a keychain that you see over here, and this keychain has a couple of things in it, which is please, more, I love you. So these are some signs over here of like the child asking for items or activities, and in the same manner you can use PECS to make some more of those items. There are also some great programs that are available on the iPad and ProLoQ and Dynavox kind of speech generating devices that are out there. The last thing that needs to be emphasized is it is important to select reinforcement that is most likely to occur across environments and in various social settings. In Carr and Durant article, the researchers taught the child to say the phrase "I don't understand" to replace the problem behaviors during difficult tasks such as academic work. I love that multiple people, whether they are familiar with the child or not, would know how to respond to this phrase. Um, what I see happen commonly is the therapist will teach the child to say, "Help me, here's a problem with help me." The child doesn't normally receive help. Instead, the adult does the task for them, right? So basically, it's important to ask. Basically, it is important to ask, not "help me," but "I don't understand," right? So a child who only has a few words walks up to you with the pants half zipped up, and he says, "Help me." Usually, you are so excited that they are talking, that you happily reinforce the language and then zip up their pants all the way. The problem with this is that over time, the child is learning that if I say "help me," then somebody will do this for me. Wow. See what happened there? That is not what you want to teach them. We want to teach the child to request for assistance, not to get out of doing the task. I am not saying to stop teaching your child to say "help me." Just be sure to provide partial help and not allow the child to escape the task completely. Okay? And now over here, I'm going to come up with some phrases that you can use as a replacement phrase for the child. So instead of "I need help," you could always say "I don't understand," or just like a more specific task. So if a child is saying "I need help," that means that he is asking for attention or tangible items. "I don't like this" is that he wants to escape a situation. "I would rather be doing that," which means that he's asking for a tangible item like a food or activity or a choice of maybe toys. "Hey, over here," which means attention. "I don't understand" is again attention and escape. "You're standing too close. Please move," which means that it's tangible or escape. "I don't feel well." It also could mean that, the child is looking for an escape or a tangible. So these are some kind of phrases that you can use, or you can, this is what the child might mean. But again, you have to do a functional behavioral assessment to find out that what is the function of the behavior, why is the child having that behavior, and then you are going to come up with, okay, how do I replace this behavior? How do I put this behavior on extinction? And how is it that I give the child a functional communication training where he can functionally communicate with me using any item like a sign language, a vocal command, or a vocal, way of communication, a speech generating device, rather than having the maladaptive behavior. So this is all about functional communication training. And the only thing that we want to remember in the functional communication training is function over form, which is the functional communication training. Always look at the function over the form. I hope that this made sense to you guys. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.